Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a monster storm system with a multi-day severe weather outbreak with a major snowstorm and ice storm followed by Arctic air and then another strong cold front by the end of next week. So welcome back everyone. I appreciate all my followers out there and all the new followers. If you hadn't subscribed already, it's free to do so. I would love to reach 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. You can see I'm seriously close, only about 1,200 away. So all you have to do is hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to get all my daily updates, because we got a lot to talk about. It's important to share this video with your friends and family of all the active weather that's ahead over the coming days so they can be weather aware. So let's delve into the details and take a look at the overall satellite picture this morning. Going into the afternoon hours, you can definitely see there's that active weather we talked about last night during the live stream. That continues to dive down to the southeast. That brought some very heavy rain, up to 4 inches in spots of the southeast. They have actually got a severe thunderstorm watch down here for those areas. But the rest of the country, you can see the Arctic air is kind of well to the north. It's just kind of waiting into the wings, waiting to get past this severe weather threat. And then we got an Arctic air mass to follow with the coldest temperatures of the season for a lot of you guys down further to the south. So let's kind of zoom in to that risk down here into the southeast. We've actually got some active severe thunderstorm watches and warnings out right now, and even a tornado warning just south of Albany here. So there's definitely some active weather as this continues to push down into the southeast. In fact, we've got that active severe thunderstorm watch right now until 9 o'clock. So for places into Montgomery, back into Troy, Alabama, as well as all the way extended into Savannah, you could see several tornadoes over the next couple hours, along with some large hailstones and some 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So definitely be weather aware down here into the portions of the southeast. It's going to be very active over the next couple hours before this actually moves offshore and it kind of clears out. But that just resets everything, because we've got another powerful jet stream, low level pressure that's going to be pushing across, and this jet is just cranking at 238 miles an hour. That's some serious stuff. And look at that lift that comes in on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. That's going to create our next severe weather outbreak, unfortunately, for a good chunk of the central 2/3 and eastern part of the US. So let's kind of zoom into this and kind of bullseye and where all this is going to take place. I think it really starts to set up more or less in the Dallas-Fort Worth area sometime in the overnight hours into New Year's Eve, going into the wee hours of New Year's Day, with a marginal risk for severe weather in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That's the initiation part. And then I think it really starts to get its act together once it swings into eastern parts of Oklahoma, going into Little Rock, Fort Smith, Memphis, Jonesboro, Clarksville, Nashville, into Bowling Green area, into Kentucky here, with some strong to severe thunderstorms. And all three modes are on the table, and this just extends all the way to Greensboro. So that is the severe threat for your New Year's Eve time frame. So as we extend the view, it just really starts to amplify once we get into that New Year's Day time frame. So now we're talking a negative tilt situation with the serious lift unfolding, and that could create a multi-state severe weather outbreak, unfortunately. And it looks to be a fairly significant threat that potentially that's on the table, that everything is kind of coming together and coming to the initial guidance is really starting to intensify as things start to come together. So they already have a slight risk for severe weather on that New Year's Day time frame in and around northern parts of Louisiana, parts of Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, going into parts of Georgia here, in Tennessee, and into Kentucky. Some of the areas that actually got hit last night with the severe weather. And I think this just expands as we kind of get closer to the event and intensifies with all the parameters that I'm looking at for parts of the Southeast. So for New Year's Day, you need to be on high alert for this potentially significant severe weather threat that's coming. All the pieces of the puzzle that are kind of coming together of a pretty big, potentially big event that's on the table, unfortunately. But there's also a cold side to this. So on the northern side, we've got that Arctic air in place, right? So this is going to be dropping down to the south. As it does, we got some heavy snow breaking out into Colorado, going into northern parts of New Mexico, and even Denver gets it about 4 inches of snow falling with this particular snowstorm. But that just extends into parts of Nebraska here, goes into Kansas, and I think there's going to be an ice threat as well right along that demarcation of the kind of the warm sector and the southern flank of there with that severe weather threat. But on the north side, you got that very heavy snow band with those tight isobars really trying to come together here, and that's where you could be picking up some of those 1 to 2 inch snowfall totals as we get into the daytime hours on New Year's Day. And as this continues to shift off into the northeast, it really starts to amplify and intensify over the Iowa area, over the northern Illinois area, southern Wisconsin, getting into parts of southern Michigan here. And then you got that south sector. That's where the severe weather threat is going to be. And then there's going to be a secondary kind of low pressure system that's going to be swinging through kind of behind the Arctic air that's going to be struggling to drop precipitation in its path because it's got that Arctic dry air that's going to be funneling in from the south. So you can see as we extend the view and as this continues to push off into the northeast, we still got that very active snowfall totals going into Michigan and parts of upstate New York here and going into Maine. We got that going into Canada here. We got that second system that's lagging behind, right? So there's not really much precipitation that's going to be falling out of the sky because it's fighting the Arctic air the entire way. And so it's drying in the mid levels of the atmosphere. So there's not going to be much to be able to reach the surface. Some of it may, right? So some of it may reach into parts of Oklahoma and parts of northern or along the Red River, but there's just not going to be like an accumulations, and you're lucky to see kind of snowflakes that's going to be flying out of the sky here. But there's the red line. That's the cold air. That's the freezing line. So we're already talking freezing temperatures by midnight Saturday night, and that just continues to extend. And like I mentioned, there's just going to be not much precipitation that's going to be able to come out of this on that second back half system, with that Arctic air just drying everything that's going to be falling before it reaches the surface. So some of this may reach the surface, but it's just not going to be able to accumulate in any like significant totals whatsoever as this continues to push off into the southeast. And you can see by that third time frame, by the time we get into the Monday, January 3rd, this is safely offshore, and there's just not much precipitation to work with in parts of the northeast. And then look, that the severe weather threat that just continues. So we got the southeast sector to deal with the severe weather threat and parts of New Year's Day. And as we get into that second time frame, it just continues to push off into parts of the east. So we're talking like the Carolinas. They're going to have to be dealing with that severe weather threat by the time we get into that January 2nd time frame. And let's take a look at some of these snowfall totals in the cold sector. It's got some very heavy totals in parts of like Steamboat Springs, 16 inches, Fort Collins, about 10 inches. I mentioned Denver, about 4 inches. So this is going to be adding up in a big way. And as this continues to push across into the Kansas area, we're talking Garden City about 4 inches, Colby about 3 inches. As it extends and goes into, say, St. Joseph, about 6 inches. And this will extend all the way into portions of Iowa, going into Davenport, into Cedar Rapids, Quincy, Springfield here, as well as Chicago with about 7 inches. So you're going to be adding to those totals with some of the snow that you've already seen already. Going into South Bend, about 5 inches. Fort Wayne, about 1 inch, but all the way down to the south sector into St. Louis, maybe about a 1/2 inch, right? You're going to be on the drier side from this system, and the heavier snow is going to be to your north. So as we extend the view and kind of look at everywhere else as far as the national view, we've got that heavy snow continuing for the parts of the Pacific Northwest, and that'll feed into the Four Quarters regions, feed into the mountains of the Colorado, getting into Denver with that heavy snow that we talked about in the midsection of the country. And then the Northeast branch doesn't really have much of anything for the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, because that second system is just going to be able to dry up in the mid-latitudes, and there's not going to be much precipitation that's going to be able to squeeze out of the air to be able to reach the surface. So any snow that does fall is going to be well to the north and going into Canada here. And then there's that second cold front. So we've got that initial blast that comes in for Sunday. It's cold Monday. We kind of rebound for the midweek, but then we have another second surge that's going to come in by the time we get into Friday into next weekend, with another significant cool down and cold air mass and cold blast. And where we see those more, greater below average temperature anomalies, those are the areas that potentially are going to be seeing that snow with that first system that's be coming across. And then that's just confirmed by the Climate Prediction Center on the latest guidance. So finally, we're not seeing well above average temperatures for the midsection of the country. We're seeing true Arctic air come in the picture for the central part of the U.S., and that will dive down and keep those below average temperature anomalies for a good chunk of the following week, at least for the midsection of the country. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button if you hadn't already. I appreciate your support on this channel. Catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.